Now let's go ahead and move on to the NFC South, the worst division in football. I don't even think it's very close. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you want to go ahead and grab them first?
I thought their offseason was fine. I gave them a B plus. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Levante David. They just re-signed Antoine Winfield. They decided to not re-sign Shaq Barrett. They let Devin White walk, trade away Carlton Davis. It basically, it looked like they identified what they wanted to do. And they did it. Graham Barton's a good player. So I guess the draft for me is this is the team that made the playoffs last year. So they're competing for that again. And there was some teams in the NFC that got a lot better. And I just think that their spot in the playoffs last year, you're now competing with you're trying to hold off a Packers team, right? Because Detroit's going to win that division. You have to try to hold off the Bears this season.
Yep.
And I know that's crazy to say, but that's a hell of a team without Caleb. If Caleb's just okay, like honestly, if Caleb can be Derek Carr, if Caleb can be Jimmy Garoppolo, if Caleb can be Baker Mayfield this season, then the Bears are going to make the playoffs because their defense is so damn good. So I'm just not sure. I'm glad you re-signed the guys. I'm glad you got rid of the guys that you didn't want. But what did you do to take your team to the next level? And I don't think they did that.
And that's kind of where I'm sitting too. I'm actually a whole grade below you at a C plus. Is a team that only made it in because your division was this bad. You brought back, again, like you said, the guys that you wanted to bring back. But even your draft wasn't super significant. Graham Barton is probably the biggest addition because Ryan Jensen goes forward and he retires, which is a big deal. He didn't really play last year. I'm pretty sure he was hurt all last year anyway. So bringing Graham Barton to play the center position is, again, massive. But you didn't, like you said, do a whole lot to really go to the next level. And if there's a team in this division that does take it to the next level, like Atlanta, you're going to have a hard time getting in, and you might not because you're looking to play for that wild card. And like you're already pointing out, there's Green Bay, Dallas / Philly, depending on who wins the division, they're going to be competing. Washington, for fuck's sake, might even fucking compete, depending how good Jaden Daniels is. Like, there's teams here that are going to be highly competitive. Chicago Bears are going to be really, really competitive this year. And Tampa Bay didn't do enough to move the needle for me. So I kind of sit at a C plus for them. The Atlanta Falcons are next up, and they're really difficult because they had a really good free agency, but then like a not the best draft. And I know people just absolutely just
did they have a good free agency
between Kirk and then Darnell Mooney, guys like that they brought in to just kind of beef up the offense a little bit for Kirk. They did okay there, but then again, the draft just didn't go the best. And I'm higher on their draft than other people are. Other people are giving them Fs and Ds while I'm giving them a C. And that's where I'm going to kind of land for them, except I'm going to give them a C plus. And it's big because of Kirk Cousins. But outside of the Kirk Cousins and then the Darnell Mooney thing, which getting another weapon for Kirk Cousins is definitely big. It's kind of subpar past that. The Falcons didn't. I mean, the Michael Penix thing is just, it hurts them so bad. And I like Michael Penix a lot. It was my number 3 quarterback on my board. I like him. But the Falcons just aren't the place right now. Obviously in like 3 years when he's starting, we might have a different conversation. But right now at the moment, he's at a C plus. And again, he only gets the plus because of signing your quarterback to, again, in a bad division to get you at the top and make it to the playoffs. Only reason that you're going to C plus.
Yeah, they got massive holes on their defense and secondary, and even on the defensive line. They moved up to take Rook. I know you love the dude, but talking, conventional wisdom is that they way overdrafted him at that spot.
Yeah.
And their draft is probably fine if they don't sign Kirk. But then you signed Kirk and you add in Michael Penix, and you had 5 or 6 top flight corners that were there at that point. You could have traded down to 15 to 20 and added more picks back and still taken a corner or a wide receiver. So This might be I think this is honestly going to look a lot like the Minnesota Vikings did, man. I think that the Falcons are going to put up 30 points a week and still lose games because their defense is so terrible. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I'm excited to watch the Falcons, honestly. I think there's going to be a lot of highlight worthy plays with their offensive talent and Kirk now, assuming he comes back healthy. So they're going to be a fun team to watch, but I don't expect them to make much noise.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Again, this is not a very good division, and this not very good division isn't doing a whole lot to position themselves better to win games and try to win again. A bad division outside the Falcons. That's just because they have their quarterback. A team that has their quarterback, but he's just a lot younger. The Carolina Panthers. Drew, do you want to go ahead and take the Carolina Panthers?
Why you stick me with the trash?
Um, because you like trash.
They hired a head coach who I couldn't even tell you anything about him. So there's that. You lose Brian Burns, you lose Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin's gone. They absolutely screwed up the Brian Burns situation.
They could have gotten 3 firsts last year from the Rams, and then they settle with, what was it, a second? Yeah, it doesn't look great.
And then you roll with Xavier Legette, obviously Jonathan Brooks in the draft, and Jatavion Sanders. So now all the exciting things you did in the offseason were to draft picks. I don't like any of it. I honestly this franchise is going nowhere fast.
They're walking, but they're walking on a treadmill. That's the issue with them. So what was your grade for the Carolina Panthers?
This is C minus for me.
Yeah, I'm right in the same position as at a C minus. I know you love Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis because they're guards. And I do like them protecting Bryce Young as much as possible. I like them bringing in Deontay Johnson for more weapons for Bryce. I like all of that stuff. And again, Xavier Legette, another weapon. But the Jonathan Brooks thing feels weird. Like you have Miles Sanders, and I know Miles Sanders isn't a perennial all-star, all-pro type guy, but Jonathan Brooks is coming off of an ACL injury, and you could have gotten someone else to make an impact more significant than the running back position when you already have someone there. But I like the Jatavion Sanders thing, but unfortunately you lose a lot. Like you already highlighted, Brian Burns, Frankie Louvu. There's your pass rush right there. Those two guys are like your two main pass rush guys. So you kind of lost in me being super late on the Jadavion Clowney thing. They bring him in, but you still lose two young guys, and one old guy is not going to replace two young guys at the end of the day. Jeremy Chin has kind of been in and out of, is he a Carolina Panther? Is he going to get moved? Is he not? Finally, he's gone after becoming a free agent. So that saga finally feels over. But honestly, outside of protecting Bryce Young and giving a couple weapons, there's a lot of things on this team I feel like could have been done. And one of those things was, especially with that Jonathan Brooks pick, you could have gone somewhere else, especially on the defensive side of the ball, when you just traded away your corner and Dante Jackson, which, again, I know he was kind of up and down last year. He still played decent, but who else are you going to play? Your injury-riddled corner that got drafted a couple of years ago? I mean, what do we – I'm just a little confused on what we're doing with the Carolina Panthers.
They're doing nothing. They're doing nothing.
And that's the issue currently. And the last team in this division is the New Orleans Saints. Which again, man, this division's really rough to talk about.
Really, I liked it. I liked this offseason. You didn't like this?
The division in general is hard to talk about. They have the best grade,
yeah.
Absolutely. They're just. It's just the whole division is just really rough to talk about. It's like almost like a downer. Like we're talking about all these teams and getting hyped about them and getting
Don't worry,
fired
we get to talk about the 49ers next.
Yeah, right. The Saints, I gave a B to.
I agree.
I think moving on from Michael Thomas is the right move. I wish you could have brought back Jameis Winston. I wish that was there. The question mark on their tackle, Ryan Ramczyk. The question marks on Ryan Ramczyk is really concerning moving into the season. Luckily, you brought in Talisi Fuanga to go ahead and replace him potentially, but the only issue is now who are you going to play on the other side? Trevor fucking Penning, because he's fucking awful. And I will stand on this forever. I said he was going to be a bad draft pick, and look at that. He's fucking horrible. So Fuanga is a great draft pick, and stealing Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second is probably one of my favorite picks in this draft. And then don't sleep on the Spencer Rattler thing, because he could potentially be a future star for New Orleans, because they don't like to lose, and they're in that purgatory of like,
he's going to start for them next year.
16, so it wouldn't surprise me.
He's not going to start the season, but after Derek Carr does his Derek Carr shit for 8 to 10 games, they'll switch to him, midway through.
Yeah, so that's where I sit with New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean they lost. Andres Pete kind of sucks, but not.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he sucks, but losing him kind of sucks. But losing Michael Thomas and Jameis Winston don't mean anything. They weren't going to let Jameis start anyway. You bring in Chase Young and Willie Gay, extend the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
And
how much money did they give Chase Young? I don't remember.
He didn't barely make any type of money.
Oh, okay, good.
But it's just one of those teams that's kind of like they're like the New Orleans Saints are like mayonnaise, man. Like,
yeah,
they're not. You know what? They're like butter. You know what I mean? We got some teams out here that are making compound butter. They're adding spices and herbs to it and slicing it on the steaks, and then the New Orleans Saints, they got their rice cooker out. They put some rice in it. They put some butter in it. They cooked it. They're buttered rice. Like, congratulations, fucking New Orleans Saints.
Right.
Until they fire their head coach and bring in an offensive-minded head coach, it's not going to matter anyway. But I actually like their offseason. I don't mean to hate on them too much. And, Spencer Rattler has had his ups and downs in terms of his prospects and how good people thought they were going to be in the NFL. But honestly, you don't get any more blah than Derek Carr. He's been absolutely horrendous as a New Orleans Saint. I think his ADOT is like 1.8 yards. Like, he doesn't throw the ball anywhere. It's just, there was an argument to be made a couple years ago. People looked at Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, and who's that freaking pretty boy over there in Dallas, Dak Prescott. And they were like, man, this is the second tier of quarterbacks. These guys are all really, really good. And now you're looking at it, Jimmy Garoppolo's on steroids and got cut. Derek Carr only has a job because that organization is incompetent. Kirk Cousins is a what's the step below superstar? Like, the best quarterback to never be the best quarterback in the league. Like, his stats are mind blowing. And I think that, Dak Prescott's no longer in this conversation. He was second MVP in MVP voting last year. So he's merged out of that conversation. But man, Derek Carr is just, it's crazy. A dude left the Raiders and got worse. That never happens. People leave the Raiders. Right. But whatever him and Darren Waller were on together over there, just obviously that whole thing has come crashed into the ground.
So, well, whatever was in the water at that time.